Uesugi is an ugly, useless brokey who is ignored by everyone at school until he suddenly becomes a tutor and rizzes up 5 quintuplet sisters at once. However, before that, it's just a normal day for Uesugi at the school cafeteria as he orders his usual meal and walks down to find a seat. Everyone talks about him being the only loner in school because he looks like human waste and smells like an anime convention. Everything changes when he accidentally bumps into the prettiest girl, who wants the same seat he has always sat on during lunch for all his worthless, miserable life. They both decide to sit at the same table, shocking the students that a pretty girl is willing to sit with the school's most disgusting perv. However, the girl soon gets irritated at his lack of table manners as he eats while reading. He tells her he's reviewing his exam papers, so she decides to be nosy, only to discover how smart he is since he received a perfect score. She tells him she's impressed, as she herself is a dummy with the IQ of a donkey. Then she asks him to help her with her studies, but Uesugi declines and walks away, not before mentioning how fat she is for ordering so much food. This comment enrages her, who responds and tells him she has never seen such an insensitive, ugly jerk in all her life. Later that day, Uesugi gets a call from his sister telling him about the debt the family owes and informing him to take a new job opportunity as a tutor for the daughter of a rich family that has recently moved into the neighborhood and has transferred to his school. Or the other option is to pay the debt by selling his kidney, as his existence is useless and he technically doesn't need both of them anyway. The next day, the newly transferred student is introduced to the class, and surprise, surprise, it's Itsuki. Of course, our MC immediately realizes it's the girl from yesterday's cafeteria incident. He tries to get on her good side, because his broke family needs the money, but she gives him the cold shoulder for being a jerk the day before. Later, he tries to sit with her at the cafeteria, but realizes the seats around her are already occupied. Just then, one of the random girls seated at Itsuki's table, who has noticeably massive cannons, approaches him and asks if he is interested in Itsuki. But our MC has too much pride and apparently has the reputation of being the loneliest numbskull to uphold, so he tells her he has no interest in receiving her help. She slaps his useless head and tells him he doesn't need to act all manly, then introduces herself as Ichika before seating herself back at the table. Of course, our MC doesn't stop getting bothered that easily. A different girl from that same table approaches him while he sulks alone eating his lunch and presents him with 2 graded exam papers. One has full marks, which is obviously his, and the other has an amazing score of 0, which we find out is hers. She claims he dropped his exam paper while passing the table earlier, and after he takes both of them for no apparent reason, she follows him everywhere, even to the boys' locker room. He gets fed up and gives her back her exam paper, saying they're even now, and she, being the idiot who managed to get a fat 0 on an exam, says thank you and finally leaves the poor guy alone. After school, our MC tries to find a moment where Itsuki is alone so he can apologize, but the same girls she sat with at the cafeteria table are still hovering. As he creepily stalks them, one of the girls takes notice of him, and in a very monotone emo voice, claims she's going to report him. He asks her not to, and to also keep this a secret from her friend Itsuki. She agrees, but she also notes that Itsuki is apparently not her friend, which is obviously very strange considering the circumstances. He then heads for the tutoring job, and upon getting there, he realizes Itsuki's parents must be pretty damn rich, as they live in an extremely lavish building. As he attempts to enter the building, he stumbles upon 2 girls wearing his school's uniform. One is the monotone emo chick from earlier, and the other is completely random. They accuse him of being a homeless stalker. Uesugi, trying to get rid of them as quickly as possible, tells them he lives in this building too. Upon realizing the evil girls are bent on crushing his dream of earning money from tutoring, he decides to make a run for it and manages to get inside. He just barely misses Itsuki as she enters the elevator, so he climbs 30 flights of stairs. After that exhausting effort, he finds her and tries apologizing, but she tells him to jump off a cliff as she has a tutor coming soon. Uesugi then informs her he is the tutor, but she says hell no, as he is too dense and insensitive, to tutor even a goat. He walks closer and insists, and as she is in disbelief, saying she can't believe he is going to tutor them, he's confused. What does she mean, them? Just then, all 4 of the weird girls he encountered earlier that day emerge from the elevator, and he wonders what they're doing there and thinks they look like a low-budget female Power Ranger squad. Itsuki then points out to him that they all live in the same apartment as Quintuplets, which equally shocks and excites him. Inside the apartment, Uesugi wonders why none of the girls come out for tutoring. Just then, the 0% Yotsuba approaches him and tells him she's ready for tutoring, and that they need to get the rest of the team to start the harem plot. They go to Itsuki's room, but she refuses to accept him as her tutor and slams the door in his face. They knock on emo girl Miku's door, who gives him the same words of rejection. Then they knock on Nino's door, but she doesn't answer. Finally, they visit Ichika's room, and as they enter, he finds her lying on the bed under the covers, and Uesugi is shocked at the insane mess she calls her room. He attempts to force her to join their tutoring session and pulls the covers off of her and accidentally unveils her naked body, which stuns him equally as much as her disgusting room. He immediately leaves and is confronted by emo girl Miku, who tells him she's looking for her sweatshirt, which went missing when he entered the house. Just as he begins to deny these accusations, they see Nino wearing it. A few minutes later, the girls are all seated and stuffing their faces, and Uesugi feels it's the perfect time to commence tutoring. But they bicker, which makes him think they're completely hopeless, and has no idea how he'll succeed in helping these idiots graduate. Nino then offers Uesugi homemade cookies she baked, claiming she will accept tutoring if he tries some. Then she offers him water, which turns out to have definitely been spiked with something. He suddenly finds himself in the back seat of a taxi, and the taxi driver tells him he brought him home and that his charge is nearly 5,000 yen, which shocks the living daylights out of him, as he is a brokey with a load of debts. Then Itsuki, who was apparently there the whole time, gives the driver her card and pays the fee. She tells him to give up on his dream of being their tutor, but our MC persists. At that moment, his young, adorable sister, Raiha, comes running, welcoming him, and then pushes him to the side upon seeing pretty girl Itsuki, so she invites her inside for dinner. While they eat, Raiha asks him if their tutoring session was a success, and he lies, so his sister won't think he's a loser. Unfortunately, Raiha has no filter, and exposes their financial situation in front of Itsuki. Later, as Uesugi walks Itsuki to her cab, she hesitatingly agrees to his tutoring because of his family's predicament. This excites Uesugi as he finally finds his life's purpose, to help all 5 of them graduate. He will do so by concentrating only on the girls who are at risk for failing, which, unbeknownst to him, is all of them. The following day, Uesugi arrives at the girls' residence and asks them to prove they don't really need the services of a tutor. He gives them a test and promises to never disturb or talk to anyone who passes. Itsuki agrees, confident she'll pass, and would rather not have to see his ugly face ever again, and the others follow suit. Uesugi instructs them that a score of 50 is passing, so the test commences, and after a few minutes, Uesugi announces that they scored 100, which excites them until he reveals that their combined score is 100. The next day at school, the girls inform him that they can study independently and don't need his help. He gives them a question from the test they did before, which they can't answer. Realizing the girls hate 2 things, studying and being around him, he decides to win their trust. While reviewing their test scores, he discovers that Miku got the answer to the question right. Later that day, at the cafeteria, he approaches her and asks why she didn't answer the question he asked earlier. He's interrupted by Yotsuba and Ichika, who tell him they would rather spend their youthful years enjoying life and falling in love rather than studying. Upon hearing these words, Uesugi gets infuriated and tells them love is for the foolish and weak. This makes the girls realize he is a complete imbecile who is hopelessly lost and was clearly never loved by his parents. Miku's face turns tomato red as they talk about love, which made her sisters conclude she might have a crush. Meanwhile, in class, our MC finds a letter from Miku asking to meet on the rooftop after school, making him believe that he might be Miku's crush. After school, he goes to the rooftop to meet his new supposed love interest, and as she approaches, his heart beats like crazy when he realizes this might actually be a love confession. But he's slapped back to reality when all she tells him is the answer to the question he asked earlier. After being the most anticlimactic love confession ever, she begins leaving, but our MC makes her drop her phone and then exposes her major interest in ancient warlords. Definitely one of the craziest fetishes I've ever heard of. Our MC sees this as an opportunity to convince Miku into joining his tutoring lessons and tells her he scored perfectly on his Japanese history exam, so he could definitely teach her all about the warlords. She tests his knowledge and discovers he does in fact know a thing or two, so she agrees to be tutored by him. However, as they walk down from the rooftop, she asks him a trick question, but he fails to prove his worth. She then tells him he's all talk and has nothing to offer. Determined to prove himself, he borrows all the books he can find on Japanese history and warlords. Feeling more confident now that he's read so many books, 2 days later he approaches Miku ready to answer all her questions. Unfortunately, she tricks his dumbass again and runs away. While running after her, he bumps into Miku, who is terribly disguised as Yotsuba, but not terribly enough since our MC falls for it, and asks if she has seen Miku. He follows her guidance and then coincidentally bumps into the real Yotsuba, realizing he's been played like a useless toy. He continues chasing the real Miku until they both become completely exhausted. Following this, Miku confides that she doesn't want her sisters to know about her interest in ancient warlords and Japanese history because she sees herself as the biggest loser among them. However, Uesugi tells her she's actually the brightest among the sisters, and even scored the highest on the test. She insists that anything she can do, her sisters can do too, simply because they're quintuplets. This inspires Uesugi, who promises to help all 5 of them graduate together with smiles on their faces, as he can finally see hope at the end of the tunnel, and their future isn't as useless as she thinks. The following day, Uesugi is locked out from gaining entry into the girls' apartment. Fortunately, Miku is also walking in and wonders what cave our MC crept out of since he doesn't know the first thing about modern technology. Meanwhile, inside the house, 4 of the girls gather for tutoring and Nino interrupts with the evil intention of disrupting their lesson. Nino tells Yotsuba about a basketball team looking for someone to fill in, knowing she can't resist the urge to help people in need. So, Yotsuba scrambles to leave. Nino then reminds Ichika about work, prompting her to also abandon the lesson. She suggests Itsuki read in a quiet place, making her leave to go study elsewhere. Everyone leaves except Miku, so Nino tries to use the same trick on her, but Miku proves stubborn. Then, Nino tries using the oldest trick in the book by attacking Miku's self-esteem, bringing in a whole conversation about inner and outer beauty, but even that proves useless. However, Miku's stomach growls, and Nino suggests the 2 sisters compete to see who has the most inner beauty through a cooking battle. After they make their individual meals, our MC is asked to determine which is better. Being broke and having no idea what good tasting food even is, he determines both are equally good, which makes Miku very happy and Nino extremely pissed. Later on, Uesugi confides in Miku, telling her Nino hates him and they'll never be on good terms. Miku, however, believes otherwise and is sure he will find a way to make Nino accept him. As he exits their building to head home, he realizes he forgot his flashcards in their apartment, but the doors lock behind him due to the building's automatic locking system. So he calls their room number and Miku answers, telling him she's heading into the shower, and he's free to come right up and take them. He enters their apartment and stumbles upon Nino, who is almost completely nude, and mistakes her as Miku at first. Nino apparently is nearly blind because she assumes the person in the room with her is Miku, not our pervy MC. She accidentally knocks her hands against a cabinet door after pushing her cannons on our MC's back, and several books nearly crush her, but Uesugi dives in just in time and saves her. Of course, at that moment, Nino becomes painfully aware that it is in fact a guy who is on top of her, not one of her sisters. Suddenly, Itsuki walks in and catches them in the sus position and decides to take a photo to commemorate the embarrassing moment. The girls gather to judge the situation as sexual harassment, and Itsuki suggests he be barred permanently from entering the apartment, but Miku defends him. Nino complains that Uesugi saw her naked, but Miku tells her there's proof it was an accident. Nino continues to complain that he threw himself at her, and when our MC thinks he will be losing his tutoring job, Itsuki comes to his rescue and explains that he had probably saved her from the falling books, which can be seen in the picture she took. At that moment, Nino breaks down in tears and runs out of the apartment. Soon after, on his way home, Uesugi stumbles upon Nino waiting outside the apartment complex's main door. And when she sees him, she tries running inside to avoid him, but the auto lock of the building is activated. Without her card, she can't get in. So she's left stranded outside, and with Uesugi not wanting to leave her alone, he decides to stay with her, and they talk. Uesugi tells her he figured out why she hates him, because she's protective of her sisters, and it's something he can understand. After this heartwarming exchange, Nino finally accepts him a little more, and heads inside with Miku. Several days later, Uesugi gets a day off from tutoring and decides to spend the whole day studying. Of course, the universe has other plans. The doorbell rings, and when he answers, he finds Itsuki, who has come to give him his pay for the past 2 days of tutoring. Looking at the money, which is quite a lot, his younger sister prays to their mom and dad, saying that Uesugi has finally made it in life. He initially rejects it, feeling like he hasn't done enough to deserve such a large amount of money. However, Itsuki tells him that his presence has begun to change something in the sisters, and that's more than enough, so he should accept the money and spend it on whatever he likes. So, after eventually accepting the money, our MC asks Raiha, his adorable little sister, what she wants. Raiha takes them to an arcade, which she's always only ever dreamed of. Uesugi tells Itsuki that Raiha has been having difficulty in life because of his family's predicament, so he wants to give her all she desires. He spends the whole day with Itsuki and Raiha, hoping that by the evening he can have some time for studying. Unfortunately, just as Itsuki is about to part ways with them, her other sisters arrive, dressed in kimonos, and tell him they're going to see the fireworks. However, Uesugi informs them they're not going anywhere until they finish their homework. They all hesitantly complete their homework and then head to the festival. At the festival, while he sits and observes, Itsuki approaches our MC and tells him to smile and enjoy his time. He responds by telling her that he is finding it difficult to differentiate the sisters and suggests she should stop changing her hairstyle so frequently so he can more easily identify them. This remark makes her angry, so Ichika intervenes and tells him he should try complimenting a girl when she changes her hairstyle instead. Later, Miku informs him that Nino has rented the rooftop of a shop near the festival so they can watch the fireworks together. This shocks him as it seems an extravagant expense even for the Elon Musk daughters. Later on, as they walk through the festival grounds, Uesugi wonders what is so special about the fireworks that they would go so far as to rent the rooftop to get a good view. Nino tells him that fireworks are a big part of the memories they shared with their mother, who loved fireworks, so they all went together to see them yearly. Just then, an announcement is made that the fireworks are about to commence. Nino looks around and can't find any of the other sisters, and just as she's about to get lost in the crowd, Uesugi grabs her hand and tells her to hold on tight and take him to the shop they rented to see the fireworks. Just as they get to the rooftop, the fireworks start, and they view them together. Our idiot MC thinks it's the perfect time to give a boring lecture about the history of fireworks, but she tells him to shut the hell up. In the hopes of rounding up all the sisters before the hour is up, she attempts to call them, and Yotsuba tells her she and Raiha are at the watchtower. Just then, they spot Ichika in the crowd. Uesugi tells Nino to wait for him while he goes to round everyone up. As he tries to grab Ichika's hand, an ugly old dude with a mustache stops him and asks Uesugi what his relationship is with Ichika. At that moment, Uesugi thinks about a million responses, but before he can even say anything, the man and Ichika are already gone. Miku then approaches him, telling him to follow her to get Ichika, but then complains that someone stepped on her foot, so Uesugi offers to carry her on his back. As her soft pillows press against his back, he enjoys every bit of the heavenly experience, but he soon has to put her down because he's a weakling who can barely lift his own weight. He helps her bandage her wounded foot so she can walk, but she gets angry at his earlier comment that she was too heavy. They sit on the stairs, and Uesugi tells her about the mustached man who left with Ichika, Then Miku reveals that she's seen Ichika getting out of that guy's car before, making Uesugi wonder what is happening between her and this strange man. With 40 minutes left before the fireworks end, he decides to look for the others, but then bumps into two weirdos who ask if he and Miku are a couple because they're holding hands. He tells them she's just an acquaintance, but Miku said they were friends. This discrepancy between their answers upsets Miku for a moment, but she doesn't dwell on it too much. Just then, they spot Itsuki, so Uesugi runs after her and calls her name, and she's not too happy about seeing his ugly face. He tells her Miku is waiting close by and they need to meet up with her. As they walk, he asks her what their relationship is, since it's been a question that's come up a few times now and he genuinely doesn't know the right answer. Itsuki tells him he is just a stranger to her, but she also passively suggests he should already know the answer to that question. Suddenly, Ichika grabs him and urges him to come with her and takes him to a secluded alley. She warns him not to tell anyone about what happened with the mustached man earlier. She leans forward and glares at him, saying she can't watch the fireworks with them. What is Ichika hiding from everyone? And who the heck is this mustache guy? If you loved this recap and want the next part, comment part 2. Also, like this video and subscribe to this channel for more interesting anime recaps. See you in the next one! Afterward, Ichika prepares to leave, but Uesugi stops her and asks what's going on. However, she asks him why the heck he's going out of his way for them, as this seems a bit too much since he's only their tutor. Hearing this, he goes speechless for a moment before admitting that he's actually been poking his nose into their business. Ichika continues to head out, but suddenly sees the ugly man with the funny mustache and quickly runs back to Uesugi, informing him that her coworker is here. They realize the man is approaching them, so Ichika quickly grabs Uesugi to make them look like they're having a lovey-dovey moment in a dark corner. However, the man sits there like he's monitoring them, shocking Uesugi, who wonders how long he has to keep hugging her. Ichika says just a little longer, and asks if this makes them look like they're in a relationship, and Uesugi replies that it makes sense to think so because they're in Japan, where just two people looking at each other could mean a relationship, unlike in the US where two idiots still think they're friends even after getting cultured. Ichika says they are friends, but Uesugi is surprised and claims he's her tutor and nothing else, making her sad. This moment makes Uesugi recall calling Miku his acquaintance and realizes that she must have been hurt by his careless talking. Meanwhile, they suddenly overhear the man who has refused to leave apologizing to someone over the phone that this wouldn't happen during filming, shocking Uesugi. This prompts him to ask Ichika what that means, and she explains that the man is actually a cameraman. She works with him as a camera assistant. She adds that this is what she loves doing because a famous comment on TikTok once said that the cameraman never dies. Uesugi asks if she even has time for that crap, and states that if she and her sisters don't focus on their studies, they won't make it to college. After hearing this, she challenges him by asking him why the hell he even studies, leaving bro stuttering like an idiot. At that moment, they suddenly see the man dragging Miku away, thinking it's Ichika. They follow after them immediately, and on their way, Uesugi asks why she snuck out of work since she claims she loves it. She replies that he should mind his freaking business since they're apparently not friends, leaving him wondering why he is even concerned about the sisters at all. However, he soon realizes that Itsuki seemed to love the way he once referred to her, so he snatches Miku out of the man's hand. The man wonders what's going on and asks who he is, but Uesugi suddenly replies that he's her partner, shocking the two sisters. Then he tells the funny-looking idiot that he's got the wrong girl, and as soon as the man sees another girl who looks exactly like Ichika, his brain glitches for a moment, leaving him wondering why there are two of his young actress. Hearing this, Uesugi looks at Ichika in surprise, while she feels embarrassed that she's been exposed. The man grabs her immediately and prepares to leave, saying Ichika's got an important audition at the moment. As they leave, Uesugi asks if she will miss the fireworks event, and she tells him to help her apologize to her sisters. After she leaves, Miku tells Uesugi not to worry about her and that he should go after Ichika instead. After running for a while, he finds her just outside the fireworks event location, panting like he's been running a marathon. He approaches her and asks if she's really leaving, prompting Ichika to ask why he's really going out of his way for them when he's just their tutor, and the dude replies that it's because he wants to get in their pants.
Just kidding, he actually says it's because they're partners in a cooperative relationship or whatever. She smiles and gives him her tablet to check her acting script. She then reveals that she was recruited by her boss 6 months ago, and since then she's been playing minor roles until recently when she got the opportunity to feature for a major role in a blockbuster movie. She further says she might finally make her official debut, causing Uesugi to ask if this is really what she wants to do. She replies yes in delight, and then tells him to be her practice partner for the audition she's doing in a couple of minutes. Just as they begin practicing, the mustache guy appears in a Mercedes, and as she prepares to leave, Uesugi grabs her face, turning her all red instantly. She thinks he's about to commit the greatest taboo in anime history. However, the idiot just pulls her cheek like his pet and tells her to quit the fake smiles because it's making her uglier than she currently is. He then goes on to list some of his family problems, which no one gives a crap about, and how she has been giving him nothing short of trouble. She then explains that when she started the job, she thought she could finally stand tall as the eldest of the sisters since she's only 4 feet 5. She promised herself that she wouldn't tell them until she'd actually made it, which is why she couldn't tell anyone that she suddenly got this audition and silently bailed on their fireworks plan. She tells him she's surprised he could notice a little change in her, but he replies that he's not Sherlock Holmes, as he only realized that her smiles differed from the others. She soon leaves to go to her audition, and Uesugi calls Raiha immediately to make plans with the other sisters. Meanwhile, Ichika blows her judge's mind with her professional acting. She soon returns with the mustache guy and discovers that Uesugi was waiting for her all along. He grabs her as soon as he sees her, and they head to where the others are waiting. Ichika thinks they must be angry with her for missing the fireworks, but she's shocked when she sees them planning a mini low-budget fireworks show. They happily welcomed her, telling her they were waiting for her. She apologized for making things turn out this way, but they told her she didn't have to apologize since they were all a bunch of messes. They soon begin the show and get excited as they observe their crappy fireworks, with Uesugi watching from a distance like an accomplished father. The next day, Ichika joins Uesugi on his way to school and tells him she was quite surprised by how her sisters responded when she told them about her acting. She's happy that the load is finally off her shoulders. Later in class, the teacher announces that the midterms are coming up next week, and any student who scores below 30 will be considered a failure. During the break, Uesugi is surprised to see Itsuki studying, so he meets her and tells her he heard that she's also been studying at home. He commends her for being the most studious of the Quints, but adds that she's also the most stupid because she's stubborn and will not join the study group. She feels terrible at his remarks and agrees that she actually needs it, but she suddenly goes to meet the teacher for his help instead, making Uesugi realize that he's just met the most difficult idiot in his entire career of taking the MC role. However, Uesugi is not one to give up so easily, so he meets Nino to ask her if she's ready for her midterms, but she ignores him and keeps walking like he doesn't exist. Moreover, he yells out as she leaves that she was happy to go down with it back at the festival. He tells her they can do it at her place if they have to, as he still has a lot to teach her that would make her satisfied. Nino becomes embarrassed because his words sound incredibly sus, and the other girls with her might get the wrong idea, so she moves closer to him to give him a brain-resetting slap. He later meets the other sisters in the library, looking like he was hit by a truck. He tells them they won't survive the exams in a week if they don't get better. They start studying, and after a long period of study in the evening, they head home, but Uesugi thinks that studying after school alone isn't enough to get these dumb skulls from the bottom of the class to the top. Ichika notices how worried he is, and she tells him to be patient with them as they can't get expelled over midterms anyway. She then says they could work harder if he rewards them. They start demanding the kind of ice cream they want, but the only reward Uesugi wishes to give is his ice cream. Anyways, following this, as Uesugi separates from them, Itsuki runs after and gives him her phone so he can speak to their dad, who demands to talk with him. He takes the phone from her and starts acting like a simp, seeking the favor of his girlfriend's dad. The old man apologizes that he's been away and asks if he's tutoring his daughters well, and Uesugi pretends everything is going fine. The old man then says that he heard the midterms are coming up and threatens to fire him if he doesn't show results by ensuring that all the Quints pass their exams, scaring him. The dad hangs up before Uesugi can even say anything, which makes him so mad that he almost smashes Itsuki's phone on the ground, but she stops him before he adds to his debt. She asks him what her father said to him to cause this reaction, but he tells her to worry about her low grades instead. He asks her how her preparation for the midterms is coming, and she replies that it's good, but Uesugi doesn't buy that crap, not after discovering that her score in the last quiz was not up to the number of his fingers. He tells her to ask for help if she needs it, but she gets angry and starts to walk away, saying she can handle it alone. He starts to pester her, demanding that he teach her by force, but it quickly turns into a heated fight between them. She tells him that she was starting to respect him a little, but has now realized that he's just some crappy idiot who's after money. He retorts, asking who would care about a stubborn brat like her if it wasn't for work. She finally declares that she would instead get expelled than sit under his tutoring, and in the spur of the moment, he also tells her he will not teach a numbskull like her. The next day, when he goes to teach the Quints at their house, he feels terrible for what happened with Itsuki, and while he tries apologizing, she snubs him and doesn't allow him to talk. Nino pushes him out, saying he's overstayed his welcome, but Ichika makes an excuse for him by reminding him that he has to stay overnight to help them study. Later that night, while he bathes, he feels terrible and wonders how to apologize to Itsuki. However, Nino pretends to be Itsuki and asks him about what he wants to say to her. Not knowing it's Nino, he apologizes for what happened, begging her to allow him to teach her and saying that he only acted that way because their father told him he would be fired if any of them failed their exams. Nino enters the bathroom.
It was at this moment that he knew. He f***ed up.
A while later, he returns to the sitting room and asks them to study, but Nino refuses, making him realize that Nino does not mind failing just to have him out. However, he tries a strategy to entice her to join them, but no matter what he does, the girl doesn't give a heck and just continues dumb scrolling on TikTok. About 5 minutes later, Itsuki comes to borrow Miku's Beats by Dre, and Uesugi longs to talk to her, but she doesn't give him a chance. Ichika notices this and calls Uesugi outside to talk with him. She tells him she noticed they always fight whenever they see each other, but it's quite different today. She then tells him that she wants them to fight like friends as they usually do. However, Uesugi tells her Itsuki is just being a bull, to which Ichika replies that he's also like that. She further says she knows that the girl is crying in her room at the moment, and even though she'll try to do something about it, there are some things that only he can do. Bro pats her head for no freaking reason, surprising her, and when she asks what the Sigma, he quickly comports himself and leaves. Miku gives him her room to sleep that night while she sleeps in Ichika's room. However, she wakes up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom, but the sleepyhead mistakenly returns to her own room, only for Uesugi to wake up the next morning and shockingly find Miku beside him. Later, they all gather at the dining table for breakfast, except Uesugi, who they think is still asleep, and Miku, who Yotsuba has gone to look for. Meanwhile, Ichika tells Nino that she's missing out by not joining them, but she rejects not true. She then suggests they fool Uesugi into thinking that she's Miku since she's not around. Meanwhile, Bro is still shocked at how Miku is with him in bed, but he gets confused. They head to the library to look for her, and while at it, Uesugi remembers what Itsuki said as they study together. He slips up and tells her he's sorry for the other day, surprising her since she figures out he knows it's her rather than Miku, but he goes back to pretending. She also apologizes, all intentionally keeping up with the charade. Unbeknownst to them, Nino is watching them from the next floor, wondering what the heck is wrong with these idiots. Bro wakes up from a dream the next morning where all the girls became disappointed as he realized that those girls are too dumb to achieve that anyway. It's exam day and Itsuki wakes up thinking there's still plenty of time, but Uesugi suddenly realizes that the wall clock is broken. Remembering that Yotsuba was already at school, Uesugi quickly devised a plan to trick the teacher, past the unsuspecting guidance teacher. Uesugi decides to try the same tactic, hoping the teacher won't notice, but he's not so lucky and gets caught, even have a brain at all. Meanwhile, the father of the girls calls, and Uesugi prepares to face the music. When asked about the results, Uesugi suggests finding a new tutor, but Nino quit bearing Uesugi from losing his job. Afterward, they head out, and he offers to get them the reward they had requested the previous day. So, will Uesugi be able to actually pull this off? That's it for this video. Let us know if you want part 3 by commenting harem in the comments below. Also, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more awesome anime recaps. See you guys in the next video.